Welcome to the quietest ones in the room with your host, Trey. I gotta say it. Just the mere fact that you've clicked onto this video and you are listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. Look, we have a serious issue that has been going on for too long in the United States of America. It's the issue of housing. It's the issue of affordability. And sometimes I think to myself, if I were in my early 20s and I wanted to get a home, how would I do it in today's economy? And for the most part, I know a lot of people ask themselves this question, even if they're not in their early 20s. Maybe they're in their 30s. Maybe they're in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s, and they want a home and they do not know how they are able to afford it. I remember reading it would take at least $120,000 for a household per year to afford the average home in America. At the time, it was $400,000. I believe it's gone up since then. And the affordability crisis is ever changing, and the paychecks aren't adding up for the average person to get the home they want. Just housing, so they can have an affordable life. And not even just buying a home, rent is ridiculously expensive. So I have an article that I want to cover. And as we cover this article, certainly want to share some personal stories as we go through this. But there's an article that came out on April 17th, an article by Fast Company. And it talks about Zillow. And this is the headline: Zillow turns full-blown housing market bare. Just look at its new forecast. It reads, Zillow projects that U.S. home prices will fall 1.7% between March 2025 and March 2026, which is last month. March 2025 was last month. Zillow economists still thought prices would rise this year. Then it goes on to say, once again, Zillow has downgraded its 12-month forecast for national home prices. On Wednesday, Zillow economists published their updated forecast model projecting that U.S. home prices, as measured by Zillow Home Value Index, will fall 1.7% between March 2025 and March 2026. So Zillow, I'm sure you're familiar with Zillow. Zillow is a platform, much like many others, such as Redfin, where you can go and you can search the available housing market. You can find places to buy, you can find places to rent, you can find places that were sold on Zillow. Now, Zillow is saying, hey, we predict that home prices will fall between March 2025 and March 2026. Now, this is my take. My take is, no, home prices will not fall between March 2025, which is last month, and March 2026. If anything, given the economic turmoil we've seen, especially with tariffs being on and off, we talked about, it's obvious in how this is affecting the U.S. dollar. 1 minute it's weakening the dollar, 1 minute it's strengthening the dollar. Interest rates for mortgages have been coming down, but I do want to say that the idea that home prices are going to come down, I think it's far-fetched. I don't think there's going to be much of a relief as it pertains to home prices coming down enough that the average person would be able to comfortably afford it. It seems that, if anything, the prices are going to continue to go up, and there's going to continue to be a shortage. And because there's a shortage, the prices go up. And if the Federal Reserve decides to lower interest rates, I don't know if you remember this from a time like COVID, what that does is it makes assets balloon in price. Your house, your car, stocks, all these things go up in value when interest rates come down. And I know you've heard, as of recent, President Donald Trump threatening to get rid of Jerome Powell if he can. But more importantly, the narrative that he wants Jerome Powell to lower interest rates, which would make the idea of you buying a home more difficult because the prices would go up. See, the game is weaken the dollar. And when you weaken the dollar, this creates a ballooning of asset prices. When you strengthen the dollar, meaning interest rates go up, yields go higher, the strengthening of the dollar makes it where your purchasing power is weaker. Okay? And so, yeah, asset prices do come down in that type of environment. But there's also what people want to sell their homes for. There's what people are willing to pay for. And the amount of people in this country that aren't in the group of the average American lifestyle and income who have wealth, they can buy the asset, which in turn makes the prices go higher. So I don't see any letup of housing prices coming down into the foreseeable future. And to address the elephant in the room about a housing market crash, no, there isn't going to be a housing market crash like the likes of 2008. No. More than not, there's going to be a continuation of housing unaffordability, but it's good luck to anyone who can't afford houses in the future. But I do want to point out something. My personal story is during COVID, the housing prices started to balloon, and there were bidding wars all over the country to purchase homes. Luckily, my wife and I, we were in a situation where we had saved up money and we were able to purchase a home during one of the craziest times in the housing market in American history. And what I learned from that experience is that in times when you do have money-making opportunities, you do try to save up as much as you possibly can in order to jump on to opportunities when they present themselves. And look, I was a person that at one point I said I never wanted to buy a home. I thought to myself, it's too much to try to manage a home. It doesn't make any sense. You're locked in. What if you want to move? All these different things that I told myself as to why I didn't want to buy a home. But I'm grateful that we did buy when we bought, and we got the type of home that I wanted in terms of being able to grow our family. And now when I look back on it, I say to myself how valuable it is to purchase a home if you can and when you can. Whatever age you are, if you can buy a home as soon as you can. And not just any type of home. I remember when we were going through the housing search, you go through the process and you kind of get exhausted, and then you start to compromise on things you may want. But when you're looking for a home, don't do that. Don't compromise on what you want. Take your time. Make sure you're working with the right type of real estate agent. Keep your eyes open and go after what you want and look for that diamond that you want in a house. And the house you get may not be your forever home, may be your starter home, which is fine. But at least you'd lock yourself in where you won't have to pay the ever-growing rent prices that we see. And let's address that. There's nothing wrong with renting. For some people I've met in my life and know in my life, there have been times when renting was a part of their transition into purchasing a home. Renting was a part of they got a great deal. Like my wife and I have, or me and my friends in the past, we had great opportunities with landlords where we had cheap, affordable rent. And if you're in that scenario and you're able to save money, do that. You don't have to purchase a home. Home ownership for a lot of people may never happen. And it's completely okay. And don't beat yourself up about it. But home ownership may happen for some. And what I would say is don't settle on a home that you don't want because you're paying a mortgage on it and it's not guaranteed that that home is necessarily going to grow in value as you think. So be in a place, in an environment, and in a community that you really want to be in a city that you really want to be in when you purchase your first home. But, the American dream idea of home ownership is laughed at and joked about and ridiculed and all these different things, but it is valuable. And I used to be that person that thought it didn't make any sense. But I came from a family of homeowners, landowners, but through college and traveling and doing all these different things, I just didn't see myself wanting to settle down in any particular place and purchase a home and kind of feel stuck. And if I want to leave, I got to sell it and all these different things. And I read and heard all these nightmare stories about, HVACs going out and the cost of that and plumbing issues, just on and on and on. And those are the real realities of having a home. But moreover, what I want to express in this video is don't get discouraged about your process of one day wanting to be a homeowner. Don't let the news and friends and family and social media convince you that some housing market crash is going to come one day and you're going to be shit out of luck and the end of the world is nigh. No. Take advantage of the opportunity of buying a home if it's in your means to do so. And don't let fear control this idea that the thing you want won't make any sense in the long run. It's bull. And that tactic works because it's a part of how the rich keep you fearful as they purchase the asset, and they make you their debtor. You're indebted to them because they own everything. But if you can get a chunk of something and own it, it's much better for you in the long run. And especially if you have a family, it's much better for you in the long run. And there are things you should consider, like the maintenance of the house, of course, and the taxes, of course. But there's so many benefits. The peace of mind of home ownership is different. But then renting, and I'll go back to that, renting is cool too because if something breaks, you don't have to worry about getting it fixed. So I understand that part too. And some landlords are so cool that they let you renovate the place that you're renting if you're willing to put in the money to do so. So there's some great opportunities in renting as well. But I think that where I see prices going in America as it pertains to housing, they're trying, the rich, I mean, when I say they, the rich, the wealthy, the real estate owners are trying new ways to figure out how to extract your wealth from you so they can have more wealth. And then renting is a part of that game. But I also know that the mortgage is a part of that game, because when you buy a home, it's not really like you own the home. You're paying money to a bank, and that bank was financed from individuals who put their money into the banking system, and they use, our money, the wealthy's money, to produce the loans to us, primarily the wealthy. They use the wealthy to produce the loans to us, and everybody's indebted to the wealthy. So I get it. But the fluctuations in pricing is far more stable when you buy a home. You get a fixed mortgage, and it's fixed. Yeah, your taxes go up, so year over year, you may pay a little bit more because of that. But depending on where you live at, it's probably not as drastic if you don't live in a major city. So that's something to think about. But this fear mongering of housing market crashes, it's bullshit. Don't worry about it. And even if it does happen, I mean, it hurts everyone. Look, we came through 2008. We made it. Yeah, some people lost their home, but some people bought that same year when the housing market crashed because they saved up their money to take advantage of an opportunity. And that can be you. Don't give up on the dream of owning a home because of people talking about a potential stock market crash coming. And yes, I said earlier that prices are rising. They always do. Inflation is real. Talk to your great aunts, your uncle, your great uncles, your grandmother, your grandfather. Ask them how much things cost when they were young. You know the answer to these questions. They were cheaper. And one day our kids will look back on the things that we paid for and say, my God, that was cheap. A $400,000 house was so cheap. Excuse me. They may have to pay, and not may, but it's looking like they'll definitely have to pay $1 million for the average home eventually with a 30-year mortgage or more. Maybe they'll do 60-year mortgages one day. It's ridiculous. But it's just food for thought. Just want to hit you with that. Zillow saying that there's going to be a bear. They're bearish on housing prices, but Zillow benefits from either direction. Zillow purchases homes. So if they've got a stockpile of cash, they're hoping that you don't want to go and buy the home that they want to buy so they can buy it and then sell it to you when the prices go up again. They're hoping to purchase the home and rent it. And all these different games that these companies play that are in the real estate space. So it's just something to think about. But don't let it deter you. Don't let it get you down. Stay positive. Understand that, yes, things do become more and more expensive. Excuse me. But if you're in a situation, you can keep saving, keep doing that. And if you're not in a situation where you can save up for a home, don't worry about it. Just do you. That door may open up for you one day. And when it does, you run fast as hell through it and accomplish those things you want to. But anyway, please share your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think that home prices are going to fall this year? Think there's a housing market crash coming? As always, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.